Dames en heren, mesdames et messieurs, chers collègues, chers amis. We zijn heel blij om jullie hier toch nog enigszins talrijk te mogen verwelkomen, ondanks de evenementen van de afgelopen 24 uur. Welkom vanavond in Bozar voor de openingslezing en vernissage van de tentoonstelling over het werk van NU Architectuuratelier. Sinds 2009 wijdt Bozar samen met Architectural in Belgium bijna jaarlijks een monografische tentoonstelling aan een Belgische architectenpraktijk. Na Robert ten Daam, architecten in 2009, Laurent Ney het jaar erop, Pierre Ebbelink in de eerste jaren, volgde de tentoonstelling over het werk van office-kerstigiers David van Severen, 51N4E en V+. Recent werd deze reeks aangevuld met aandacht voor Dierendonck-Blanke architecten, bouwkunst, Ura, Yves Melisse, Ikiki Verbeek en Agua, verleden jaar. De focus op telkens een andere manier van werken vervolledigt zo de mozaïek van het Belgisch architectuurlandschap. En het is onze taak, die van Bozar en van A+, als curatoren van deze reeks, om die mozaïek zo kleurrijk en zo divers mogelijk te maken. Door aandacht te besteden aan zeer singuliere en eigen gereide aanpakken. Et si c'était le cas pour chacune des pratiques architecturales auxquelles nous avons prêté attention jusqu'à présent, c'est certainement aussi le cas pour NU Architectuuratelier. L'agence de NU Architectuuratelier, fondée il y a 20 ans ou 19 ans par Arūnas Arlauskas, Armand, Eeckels et Halewijn Lievens, est basée à Ghent, où le trio s'est rencontré dans le bureau du feu Maarten van Severen. Il n'est donc pas surprenant que dès le départ, leur pratique ait accordé une grande importance à l'échelle du mobilier et à son potentiel de création d'espace et donc d'architecture. Ils n'ont par ailleurs jamais eu peur de se retrousser les manches et de réaliser eux-mêmes des parties de leurs meubles et de leurs bâtiments. Les dernières années, leurs projets se sont diversifiés en embrassant toutes les échelles, de la chaise au master plan, toujours en accordant une attention particulière aux spécificités de la commande et aux usagers finaux de leur architecture. Avec cette exposition, ils cherchent ainsi aussi d'adapter ce genre difficile de l'exposition d'architecture, parce qu'on ne peut pas exposer de l'architecture, hein? C'est vrai. Ils cherchent de l'adapter au public le plus jeune possible. Voilà. En les invitant à utiliser les meubles exposés et en les invitant à jouer avec les objets qu'ils présentent. Ik geef nu het woord aan Lisa de Visser, artistiek directeur en hoofdredactrice van A+, die samen met Lara Molino en mezelf co-curator is van deze tentoonstelling, om een tip van de sluier op te lichten.
Dankjewel, Ivan. We willen vragen stellen en verkennen. We willen bluffen en verzilveren. We willen kijken naar nieuwe verbanden en betekenissen, nieuwe materialen, nieuwe manieren om programma's te combineren. We willen in de wereld staan en spelen. Zo stelt NU zichzelf voor. Armand, Eeckels en Halewijn Lievens gebruiken dit citaat om een indruk te geven van hoe zij willen omgaan met hun architectuur en hoe ze de wereld willen veranderen via die architectuur. En dat is ook iets wat je heel goed kan zien in de tentoonstelling. In de tentoonstelling kom je echt binnen in het hoofd van NU. Je komt binnen in een reeks van referenties, allerlei inspiraties, allerlei verschillende gebouwen die zij eigenlijk gebruiken om hun manier van werken, om hun manier van ontwerpen te kunnen voeden en om daarmee aan de slag te gaan. Et quand je parle de l'univers de NU, on peut le prendre vraiment littéralement, parce que comme Iwan le disait aussi tout à l'heure, NU fabrique son propre univers aussi avec ses propres mains. On le voit tout de suite dans l'exposition qu'il y a toute une série de maquettes, mais aussi des photos où on voit qu'ils sont en train de préparer eux-mêmes la cuisine, ils sont en train de couler du béton, ils sont en train de faire les maquettes qui sont après exposées dans l'exposition. Et je crois que dans cette exposition, justement, c'est ça qui montre la générosité de ce bureau. Une générosité qui se montre pas seulement dans les objets exposés, qui s'est montrée aussi avec la collaboration avec nous, mais aussi envers les usagers et les maîtres d'ouvrage de leurs projets. C'est un bureau qui est dans leur programme, dans les projets sur lesquels ils travaillent, focalise beaucoup sur des programmes très engagés sociétalement. Je parle des programmes de soins, écoles, mais aussi des programmes qui sont liés avec un public spécifique. Et donc là, je parle par exemple de la maison Perrekes, dont on va sans doute parler tout à l'heure, une maison pour les personnes atteintes avec l'Alzheimer ou pour certaines autres maisons de soins, où ils cherchent vraiment à faire une architecture qui est près des gens, qui est faite parfois avec les gens et qui amène à un environnement qui est beaucoup plus chaleureux et beaucoup plus presque domestique que ce qu'on a l'habitude de voir. En het is net die redenen waarom wij het bureau nu zo ontzettend interessant vonden en waarom wij die tentoonstelling hebben willen maken. We hebben niet alleen een tentoonstelling gemaakt, we hebben ook een boek gemaakt. En de gulheid waar ik daarnet over had, zie je ook in dat boek. Een van de pijlers van het boek is een 8 uur durende conversatie die we met hen gevoerd hebben over hun werk, waarin ze op een associatieve manier door hun werk gesurfd zijn, van beeld naar beeld, van project naar project. Een conversatie die ook gefilmd werd in samenwerking met Bertrand Lafontaine. En waar we enerzijds een deel van de tentoonstelling uitgedistilleerd hebben en anderzijds ook een heel deel van het boek, waardoor we eigenlijk ook de lezers van het boek kunnen meenemen in het universum van nu. Ik zou jullie graag dat universum dieper laten ontdekken straks, maar voordat ik het woord geef aan Halewijn en Armand, zou ik een aantal mensen willen bedanken, dankzij wie die tentoonstelling en het boek zijn kunnen gerealiseerd worden. Eerst en vooral zou ik de Bozar willen bedanken voor de co-productie voor deze tentoonstelling en in het bijzonder Christophe Slagmulder en Zoe Gray voor de hele fijne samenwerking. Ik zou ook de subsidiegevers willen bedanken die A+ ondersteunen, la Fédération Wallonie-Bruxelles, la Ville de Bruxelles, Urban en évidemment aussi la Vlaamse overheid, de Vlaamse overheid die ook specifiek deze tentoonstelling ondersteunde. Verder zou ik ook onze sponsors willen bedanken, die de tentoonstelling ook ondersteund hebben. Studio Barabas, Acasa, Attento, Driessen, Gavra en Koers. Ik zou ook heel graag ABC, Art Basics for Children, willen bedanken. Dankzij hen kunnen we deze tentoonstelling ook voor de allerkleinsten openstellen, maar niet alleen voor kinderen. Het is heel belangrijk dat een tentoonstelling voor iedereen, als ze goed is voor kinderen, is ze voor iedereen. Dat is eigenlijk een beetje de insteek. En vandaar ook de samenwerking met ABC. We hebben ook dankzij een aantal samenwerkingen in Natura kunnen bijdragen aan de tentoonstelling. Ik denk aan het Concertgebouw van Brugge, Huis Perrekes, de plantentuin Meise, Kasthuisberg, Guimouton, Kwadraat en de Keizer Woonindustries. Hartelijk dank voor deze samenwerking. Et maintenant, je vous amène dans la tête de nu. Merci beaucoup.
Goedenavond allemaal. Op een dag liep het aardvarken langs de rand van het bos, tussen varens en kreupelhout door, langs dicht struikgewas. Hij bleef staan, wreef in zijn voorpoten en dacht, hier is vast nog nooit iemand geweest. Hij knikte en baande zich een weg het struikgewas in. Hij duwde een paar stekelige takken van zich af en dacht, weet je wat ik nu ben? Een ontdekkingsreiziger. Het was altijd zijn liefste wens om dat te zijn. Hij gaf de struiken die hij tegenkwam namen. Dat hoorde zo, als je op ontdekkingsreis was. Dit is voortaan varkensdistel, zei hij, en dit aardnetel. Hij snoof wonderbaarlijke geuren op, die nog nooit iemand had geroken, en was benieuwd wat hij allemaal nog meer zou ontdekken. Maar dat kun je van tevoren niet weten, dacht hij. Anders is het geen ontdekkingsreis. Al gauw kon hij niet meer verder komen. Het struikgewas was te dicht en zat vol doornen die in zijn vel bleven zitten en pijn deden. Pijn is onmisbaar op een ontdekkingsreis, meende hij. Zonder pijn ontdek je niets. Hij stond in een struik die leek op een braamstruik. Hij noemde hem stoppeldoorn. De takken slingerden zich om hem heen. Er zaten kleine blauwe vruchten aan, die hij stoppels noemde. Ik heb het niet gemakkelijk, vond hij. Wat ik nu onderga, is een ontbering. Maar ontberingen horen ook bij ontdekkingsreis. Anders was het een uitstapje en hij hield niet van uitstapjes. Plotseling hoorde hij een stem. Hallo, aardvarken, wat gezellig, wat doe jij hier? Het was de krekel, die uit een opening in de stoppeldoorn tevoorschijn kwam. Het aardvarken schrok, wist zo gauw geen goed antwoord te bedenken en mompelde: Ik ben op ontdekkingsreis. Wat bijzonder, zei de krekel. Ik maak een ommetje. Het is hier zo mooi. Ik kom hier elke dag.
Hello, everybody. First of all, we will surf through a few projects. The idea is not to explain them in total, but to sort of let you have a brief view on how we perceive things and how we approach design questions. So first of all, I will start with the ponds of Belfort. They are situated north of Leuven, city not so far from here. When COVID roamed our streets, it was a very attractive site for people to take some air, to go jogging. It's part of our industrial heritage in a way, so it used to be fishing industry, the production of poplar trees. Afterwards, it was a few years or a few decades that it was neglected. And in a way, that was also part of its success. So nature had the possibility to flourish again. Because the site was so popular, the city council decided to write a brief, competition, architectural competition, for a master plan, but also a bird's viewing point. Together with Overland, landscape architects, designers, we developed a master plan. And the basic idea about this master plan was to work with four types of natures, and in a way to make them explicit on the site. The first nature we're talking about is really primal nature, so untouched. It's something you barely can find on our little globe. Second nature is agricultural nature, the productive landscape. Third nature is the cultural landscape, let's say like a garden, or really created nature in a way, designed nature. And fourth nature, and this is where it becomes interesting for us, is man-created nature, but focused on biodiversity, so that nature can flourish again, but in a way where there's also room to experiment. In this master plan, we could make space for these four types of nature. In the competition, we were so bold to sort of drop this monolith that you see in the collage onto the site in the middle of these two ponds. And they were the bird's viewing point, let's say, for the client. But as we approached the design, we were not so interested in really making a bird's viewing point. It was the question, but we sort of thought this is not our primary concern for this site. We would like to design for nature itself. So the first object became to design something for nature, for fauna and flora. And secondly, it's the human that sort of visits the site as a guest, because these, as we visited, it's only like a punctual point in time, while fauna and flora, they're always there, 24/24. As we approached this, dropping this monolith, we had to think in mass in a way. So the idea was, like, if you look at this image, it's a bunker, neglected bunker. but it's very primal in its expression and also in its function. It's there to protect and to view. And in a way, we also approached the fauna fort, as we call it, in the same way. So we sculpted the mass in a way in order for people to look at the environment in a very specific way, but also not to be seen and not to disturb nature. What I maybe forgot to say is that in the master plan, the north pond is a nature reserve and the south pond is for soft recreation. So we dropped this monolith in the south pond in order to be able to look at the north pond, to look at the birds and nature. Another point, or another element that we introduced was time, the fourth dimension. So I think as architects, we are inclined to think in definitive objects, sort of final objects, and you, in your mind, you think this will always be and stay the same. But we started from the idea that we have to design with time and therefore also erosion. So this is like a cross-section of the fauna fort. The interior of the fort is where people can roam. It's so there's like a spiraling ramp going up, and which then allows them the possibility to enjoy the nature around. And the exterior of the volume is in a way something that can erode and change. We will not know how this will change. So in a way it's an experiment, and also the City Council of Leuven sort of likes this idea that we don't know where it will end. And as a sort of extra element that we also introduced, because when you start elaborating on this concept, you have to think of which materials will be used in order to build it. And then you come across the idea, if you start importing extra materials, it's not specific to the site, it's like, it's kind of an invasion of alien material. So then we thought, okay, we want to layer it in a way, stack different kinds of materials, and we are going to produce this element in a circular way. So we have made an inventory of construction sites all over Leuven, where like parking garages are being dug out, and we're excavating material from there. And they sort of represent all the material that is below the fauna fort. So we make visible what is present underneath in the earth, let's say at a depth of 20 meters, 30 meters, 50 meters. So it's like the history of the place, but over millions of years that you sort of bring to the surface and that you make visible. This is a study of a geologist in our team who sort of made the inventory of all the construction sites and which layers that will become visible and extractable in order to be used as a building material. So this is like a small diagram. So you have the valley, let's say, if you cut it, you see all the layers and we sort of represent them then in the build-up of the fauna fort. I think like the starting point of why we're doing this is that we do not want to design architecture as a commodity. So in a way there is a resistance towards consumerism. I think due to this resistance, it's not the first thing that you come across to is you sort of deal with the question in a different way so that you encounter the unexpected. And in doing that, you also go on a voyage of discovery in a way, a voyage where you don't know where you will end. So we sort of made a big team of experts where nobody was in the comfort zone, and these people were sort of together thinking of a solution, how this element could be built, because we also had to guarantee some safety for the people who would visit it. And so it's really like an experiment, and I think that's what we really like to do in a way. In a I think if you look at it from a distance, it's kind of a punctual element in space and in time. But for us, it created the opportunity to sort of enlarge our mental space, to reset boundaries, and to think in different ways about architecture and about landscape. I think if you look at it as a consequence, for example, it had an impact on following projects like the reception area of a provincial domain, Nieuwenhoven, where we will create our first building without 1 gram of cement in it. And a second project, which I will now go into very fast, is a large infrastructural project in Limburg. It's the North-South link. We were asked to, together with maatontwerpers, to think about the design of bridges. In a way, it's a gigantic design team of engineers, master planners, designers, thinking about tunnels, bridges, new public transport. So at the moment, there is a sort of infrastructural link, but it's in a very evil state, let's say. So the villages are really being distorted almost by these roads. And the idea is to really redesign the whole axis and to make it qualitative for nature and for the villages. This implies a whole set of infrastructural elements in the landscape, such as the aqueducts, bridges, tunnels. In order to deal with this whole complexity, we designed a few typologies, let's say. At the starting point, we also set out with a few extra ambitions. So not the idea to only create, let's say, a beautiful bridge, but to think about how to minimize our impact as to carbon, for example, to minimize the amount of cement used, and sort of how could we do this? So I think the first step that we did is that all light infrastructure, so not for heavy traffic, we decided to do in wood. So all bridges for cycling will be made out of wood. All heavy constructions will be built in concrete, but with like shells based on tensile forces instead of really building on with mass, let's say. So in order to really minimize the amount of concrete. So here you see like a section of an aqueduct, a section of a principal bridge system for heavy traffic, eco tunnel, where we also maximize the surface for ecosystems, and then the wooden bridge. Another element in the project is, in a way, you have to drop this enormous amount of asphalt, concrete into this ecosystem and also into the villages. We have to minimize, in a way, our impact. So we created a set of wall systems that we will use. First wall system is like a natural slope where it is easy for nature to colonize with plants and etc. The second we call the living wall. The idea of the living wall is that we create conditions in order for the ecosystem that's around it to sort of attach to it, to go into... so imagine if you go through a valley with a very fragile ecosystem, the wall sort of serves as an extra element for this ecosystem. And imagine if this wall would be in a more harsh territory, for example, like close to a highway. There the idea is to make it very mineral, but also very porous, so that animals can nest in it, that insects can make use of it. So to really think in different options how to facilitate nature in a way by these walls. A third element is the dune wall. I will go into that a bit later. And then the fourth is a very technical wall with high technical demands as to retention and acoustics. Here you're looking at the topographical map of a part of the north-south link. You sort of identify a triangle, like this north-south axis is where the road is. The angled line through it is where the part of the cycle highway now is situated. So at one moment we proposed, you see that there's like a sort of a boomerang of dunes, but which were cut by the infrastructure and also by commercial activity in the triangle. So what we proposed is to restore this old dune and using this recreated natural element as a way to, for example, at the edge on the right side of the image, there it will serve as an abutment for a bridge. And in the middle, there you see the aqueduct, where the aqueduct will rest on this naturally created dune wall. What we do is create this wall, but then like with a razor, we cut it so that it becomes, in a way, something very sculptural. And now we are researching how this element could be made without cement or without as less cement as possible. So that's still an ongoing research. And this is like a small collage to visualize it.
The cradle bed. We would like to present 3 projects this evening in which we think architecture functions as a mediator. The first project Armand talked about is architecture a mediator with the vulnerable, and the vulnerable in that case was the ecosystem which is there. This project deals with the vulnerable and the fragility of people. And the last one is a project where architecture is a mediator to deal with the precious plants of Meise. A few years ago, we were commissioned to do a project for Huis Perrekes. Huis Perrekes is an organization giving housing, living and care for people with dementia. A very important element in giving this care, and where architecture plays an important role, it's to support the daily life, more or less as we know it, as we can share and as we talk about what the good life means. We believe that there is a certain common in that. So activities we know, like doing the dishes, cooking, doing laundry and stuff, are part of living, are part of what happens in a house. And the idea is that this house and all these small activities are a very good backbone, are a very good context to organize or to give care to for people with dementia. What happens as the illness proceeds is that people lose the consistency of time, the consistency of space. So what we, with this architecture, try to make is spaces that look familiar, that give kind of a holding, supporting environment. It's very important that the architecture offers this support, but that it doesn't take over. We develop the architecture in such a way that the rhythm of the day, which is in the evening, the sun going down, the fact that it's getting dark, that the light changes, but also the fact that at 4 o'clock coffee is made and that the smell of soup is there in the morning. So all these elements that can express the rhythm of the day is another important element to as a support for these people. Beside the architectural project, there's a very small project, but which for us is as important as the building, the house we designed. It's the cradle bed. The cradle bed is something which can be very comforting for people with dementia. It is an idea that Huis Perrekes already had for a long time, and together with the architectural design, we also developed together with them this cradle bed. So as people with dementia evolve in their illness, their awareness of the space, or they is kind of becoming smaller and smaller, and there's more and more need of a very holding universe, and it's very well expressed in this small cradle, which is also like a very comforting space. The bed is used during the day, in a day situation when somebody needs some comfort, if somebody can find some rest in the rhythm of the cradling. So in a way, this bed is a very nice closing of the circle between birth and the life's end. This Quaker bed, this Quaker bench is a small, modest piece of furniture, which is also a small architecture, we think. You have to imagine that you sit on the bench and you can put your baby next to you, and as you cradle, your baby cradles with you. And it also is an expression of the exchange that happens when you cradle somebody, or somebody, so the opportunity for you to cradle somebody and to be cradled, it's this vice versa, which we think is very strong, and where we think architecture can be this mediator to make a quite direct connection between people. The research was very interesting, and it's actually still going on. It's a lot about the rhythm. On the left drawing you see, so what we did is this, we had this very simple architecture, which the previous Gerard Kohls, who already had worked with Huis Perrekes before, made a very archetypical bed. We developed it further by making a round surface to touch the ground. And depending on the curve, you also change the rhythm. We had to experience how this functioned, what the impact is on the cradling. The cradling has to be very precise. Every millimeter you change in the curve gives a different rhythm. Another aspect is, of course, the height of the center of gravity. You see in this system on the right, to make the rhythm on music, as you change the center of gravity, the rhythm changes. And the nice thing is, what we found out is, as higher as the center of gravity is, the slower it cradles, but also the more flat the curve is, the faster it goes. So it's a very nice connection between these two factors that made us develop this ideal. It's a project we did in a very intense and nice collaboration with people of Huis Perrekes. We had wonderful moments testing different types. On the left you see a bed which was suspended. So you would actually hang and swing, but it's really not comfortable. It feels very shaky in a way. On the right side you see two people living at Huis Perrekes testing the basic bed we had with a rocking which is in the cross section. It's this bed. What a nice development is that you see it in the exhibition. We have our first table where we had a very strong focus on developing types of material. It was a resin, a translucent honeycomb table, And all the focus was on the type of material and the characteristics of the table. In this bed, it's almost a arte povera object where all the focus is on what happens with the bed. It's the ritual that happens when using the bed. Imagine that you're in a cradling bed and you wake up in the morning and your bed is not fixed and not stable to the ground. That's a really frightening experience. So the way to fix it and to make it in a very stable bed is as important as the cradling itself. We made this double system to fix it very firm. There's a bed in the exhibition. You can lie in it. You can test it. Ingel Weikla made a very nice movie of it. You can just put on the headphones and look at it. There's many ways of cradling. In this small sculpture, we expressed the cross movement, but also a movement in length. Few beds were made with this kind. We distributed the beds among different organizations with different kind of care environments. We did a questionnaire, we got feedback, so it's in a way we think this bed can play a wonderful role in many places. This is what is also nice is that the development of the bed is not something we do somewhere in an office, somewhere in a meeting room, but this is in the houses of Huis Perrekes amongst the people. I think it's very important to stay in close contact with these people. For us, it's an example of haptic architecture. It's architecture which is very close to your body, your experience right away, but it's also a very strong mental thing. We also, I think we touched the aspect of architecture in its essence to be a dialogue, to be something which can establish the way we are in the world and the way we live together, that it can be a very strong supporter for this. A concept in care architecture for us is that you always bring yourself. If you design for people with a demand of care, certain vulnerability, certain aspects, is that we always design or make living or houses, and we try to make them as good as we would want to live in them ourselves. So I think we are there as persons with our personal appreciation. That's the basic idea, but added to this, we try to have a very strong dialogue with clients in order to enrich our intuition. So to also step beyond our first reflexes and to refine them very far. I think it's a key element to make inclusive architecture. It's to always be there as a person. And from the big cradle bed, actually what happens is we all grew too big to be cradled. We simply are too big. So this bed actually is an answer for this. And from this cradle bed, a small cradle was born as people from the office become a father. We thought, why not make a small cradle bed for the new family and for the kid? And the nice extra is that, so this is the same cradle bed. You can also fix it and unfix it. It's the middle part can also be placed lower, so it becomes a small cradle boat. As the kids grow a bit older, it's an element to play with.
The Green Arc. This is a project situated in the Botanical Garden of Meise. We were very lucky to also design the reception area of this garden. This project concerns the collection of the botanical garden, and at the moment we're also working on, like this month, the construction site will start for a new restaurant heart of the garden. I think it's a very special place in a way. You should really go there if you have some time, and you can keep on going there because every time you will discover something new. It's a very elaborate collection that you can visit in a way, a collection of different gardens, the palace. So each time you can discover something new. So I've become a big fan of the botanical garden in the meantime. I think this project concerns the living collection. The living collection was situated kind of in a landscape room, hidden in the middle of the garden. It still is. And this is more or less how we found the existing infrastructure. So it was in a very bad state, let's say. There were nets hanging in the greenhouses because of the falling glass. This is Frans taking a picture. Frans is like the greenhouse engineer, very smart, and he's like a perfectionist as to the machine of the serre. This is the design we came up with, so you should look at it as a very big field of highly technical machinery developed for plants. So the idea is to control air, water, light, temperature, and to mix these elements in such a way that you create different climate spaces in this whole area. One of the important elements was also to be able to construct it in two phases. So the left part was built in first phase, so that on the right side the old greenhouses could stay. Then the collection moved to the first phase, and then the second phase was built. The project included also like the refurbishment of an office building. Well, it wasn't an office, it was an office building at the time, but kind of rough. So now it has been refurbished, and also the restoration, part of the restoration and a master plan for the castle of Boeghout. What you see in the middle is like a big bunker dug in the earth with technical facilities, but also with a water buffer where all the water from the garden is sort of collected and then it's pumped to different areas. I will go more into this element that you see in the center. So part of the question was to provide a public element, so where the collection of the Plantin Meise could be shown to the public. There was a big contradiction because in a way we had to show it, but people could not touch it. So we had to think about how to make contact, how could we optimize this contact between people visiting the site and then the collection which needed to be protected. Because the mission of the Plantentuin, it's based on three big elements, being scientific research. Another one is to safeguard the collection, and this is like being part of a global network of botanical gardens. Each of them has their speciality. In Meise, there's a focus, for example, on coffee, witlof. It was invented there. And also, for example, bananas. We struggled a long time with how could we optimize this contact, and then we sort of had the idea, okay, let's insert it in the middle of this greenhouse and connect it to the outer world with like a small entrance area. Okay. No. It doesn't move. It's thinking. Yeah. So here you see a section of the greenhouse. So the two phases on different levels. The advantage was that it was on a slope, and therefore we could provide a whole set of different heights in the greenhouses. I think if you're designing in a greenhouse, you sort of have to think with the greenhouse and not against it. So we had long talks and long discussions with a greenhouse engineer, but eventually he allowed us to intervene in the greenhouse itself. In order to optimize the contact, we sort of made a dug-in element with a big canopy in a way, so to make it dark, so that you could look into the greenhouses from a dark viewing point to the light, let's say. And also provided then a height by making kind of a higher roof. And this then developed eventually into the section that you see here. As we developed it, we wanted to build it with a natural material, being wood, since we were working in the botanical garden. And we sort of thought of how can we make this, how could we optimize the use of wood in a way to construct this pavilion. Together with Studiebureau Mouton, it developed into a sort of a parabolic surface. So it's a contorted surface, but which can be built with straight lines. And this allowed us to make, in a way, a very light canopy, which was higher, but structurally logical. I think what was a constant element in the development of this pavilion was building models. I think in the phase of the construction dossier, we built a one-on-one scale part of the shell. As the contractor was building or wanted to start to build a pavilion, he made this model 1:10, and he tested everything in this model. So his logic was, if I can build it on this scale, I can also build it on the real scale. So everything was tested in advance on this model. On the right side, you see the shingles. It's the way how we will finish the facade of the pavilion. And all details were also like taught in wood. So we really try to avoid like metal elements at the edges of everything. So it's really a 100% wood element. Except for the parabolic edges, because it had to be really accurate. I think this for us was a very a moment with a lot of tensions, let's say, because they had to start building it with very thin planks. And in the beginning, the guys who were working on the construction site, they really had to redo it a few times, trying to find a way how to build it. But eventually it evolved. On the right side, you see it into something very strong, very powerful. This was a visualization which we made in the competition, which shows a bit the world of light of the plants and then the canopy that we create in order to look into the greenhouses with a terrace on top. So as a visitor, you go through a scenography of a very narrow gorge-like space to then enter into this pavilion with a low canopy where there's where there's less light as the surroundings, with this polyvalent space inside, to then go to kind of through a grotto-like element to the terrace, which is not finished yet. It's under construction. And there you also have a view into the greenhouses, but then like a further perspective, let's say. I think, the pavilion called the Green Arc is kind of hidden in this greenhouse. So it's a bit of a strange thing to hide something so iconic in a way into this greenhouse. But still, this is the essence, because I think the greenhouse is the main element in this project.
All right. With the wonderful opportunity we had to think of an exhibition came the opportunity to make our first monographic book on our work. This is the cover. And I will very shortly explain how we dealt with this thing of a book. We consider ourselves not really as writing architects. Our oeuvre is being made by digging deep, having our noses and hands and feet in projects, trying to make intense projects. We never had really big opportunities to really zoom out and to overlook what are we actually doing. So in that context, we thought of a way to dig into the many hundreds projects we touched during this 20 years we more or less exist now. We excavated hundreds of folders with thousands of subfolders, with many thousands of images. And we saw ourselves a bit as gold diggers. You have this sift, and you put in all your documents, and you kind of sift it, and suddenly some parts are sparkling, and you take them out and you put them together. And then we had this huge collection of elements. Mostly they were only parts of projects, or aspects of projects, or small details of projects. And so we created this huge collection. We tried to organize all these elements. And what we found out is actually that in our minds, we had a lot of wormholes. So with a certain aspect of one project, if we enter in it and we think about it, in some way we pop up in another project, and leading to another element. And then in that way, we felt that there was this kind of resume kind of connection between a lot of things without really being able to put our finger on it. And then we asked some help. We asked Bertrand to make a film. A film as a fertile ground to make our book and also make the exhibition. And so all these images we collected, and Armand and we had a very long talk, as Lisa said, for a few hours, and just to talk about what fascinates us, the questions we have with certain elements and stuff. And this then was being brought into the book. So I think it's important to understand that the book is the result of many details put together, or maybe as a string with beats, and all the beats just put together after each after the other, and they kind of form a path. But the path itself is full of coincidence. This is the cover. This is an image of the first part of the book, where we jump from one project to another, and also we make small quotes of the aspects that come with these images. The path we made with it is, in a way, if we would make a new book and start over, probably the path would be completely different. So each time, I think, when we start putting, and we see links, these links can be made in many, many different ways. Another nice part of the book is an essay made by Stefan, and it's also this sharp transition or steps of affinity between different aspects of projects of ours. And the last part of the book is some plans and some images to give some insight in about 12 projects. That's the last part. This book is very strong related to the exhibition we made. It consists of 3 parts. The first part, which is in this first space, is one of the reflections of one of the expressions of this line of elements, which Arthur nicely translated into a wall. We combined it with one-to-one objects, which we gathered from different projects. And underneath this collection of images, there's some themes that lay underneath it. But I challenge you to look at it and to see how it happens, how you maybe see links, how you maybe see stepping stones, and so on. But for us, a basic ambition was to make an exhibition which is more than just an exhibition from architects to architects. We had the very strong urge to try to open up. And I think the collection we made in the exhibition, the selection, are for us often openings for people maybe with less architectural backgrounds and also children to step into the world of architecture. In that way, it has a lot to do with what makes us very enthusiastic and to see how diverse the background is of architecture. In the second zone, you have some focus points. We talk a bit about Huis Perrekes, about the Ark. The film Bertrand made about us having this very long dialogue was compressed into some 10 projects, I think, where you can get some more depth into some of the projects. And then finally, our ambition was, what if we make an exhibition which is also accessible for children, for people 8 to 16, 18 years. But with that question, of course, we believe that actually it doesn't even matter. I mean, if it would be a good exhibition, automatically it should also work for younger people. So what we created is 4 play models. The first one, but you will see it in the exhibition, so it's in the last part, which is the atelier. The first one, it's about a nice city project we are working on in the Citadel Park in the center of Ghent, together with 51 N4E. It's a very big hall, which was in a way neglected in its potential. And we imagine that it's a very nice urban scene generator. So we created a tool for people and kids to play, to make urban scenes and to think about what this space could be. The other one, it's about this project Armand talked about, the Green Arc, how this double curved surface, how it's actually made, and you can experiment with this. The left one is a small house we made in Landskouter. It's a pentagon plan, and you can feel and experience how this complexity of this figure is made, and you can puzzle it and get in touch with the design. On the right part, it's a double helix staircase we made for Ghent many years ago, and it's actually a very big puzzle which you can demand and put back together. What we think is very nice, it's to, in that way, also to make part of the exhibition where you're not just with your hands on your back reading in a very cerebral way, but to really also touch things and to experience space and rhythm and the mathematics behind space in a very direct way. It's a collaboration with ABC. Together with the exhibition, we will be giving workshops for children, for schools that will be invited. Gerard had the wonderful plan every Wednesday afternoon for families and young people to come to have workshops. We have these 4 play models, but added to this, there will be some more material to work with. And in the back of the atelier, we have a small book lounge, which is for us kind of a stepping stone to dive into architecture, and hopefully we can sparkle and add some fire to the wonderful world of architecture. Voila, this was our lecture. We have one very important part which we will read because we want to keep it compact, but it's really from the depth of our heart. So that's kind of a contrast, but trust me. Thank you. We want to thank Bozar and Art Plus for giving us this wonderful opportunity to make a book and the exhibition around the 20th birthday of NU. We want to thank Lisa, Iwan, Eileen for supporting and following us on the explorative and winding path we went. We want to thank Lara to be there till the last nail was hammered in the wall. We want to thank Stefan for his sharp feedback and the wonderful talks we had and the essay you made out of it. We thank Bertrand for your cinematic perspective that formed the fertile ground of both the exhibition and the book. Thank you a lot, Gerard and Studio ABC, for the interesting input and feedback. Your engagement in carrying out our work, but architecture in general toward kids and youngsters is very inspiring. Thank you, Mathilde, for holding many lines, for your meaningful feedback, making a wonderful layout of the book and the exhibition. Thank you, Steen, to be the eyes of NU ever since we started. Thank you, Ben and Emma, for planting the seed of reflection on our work.
A big thank you to our team as well, because we are standing here, but actually we're representing a whole bunch of people in the past and especially present. I think since a few years our office has become stronger and we are now a group of people who are really aiming at a good future. So thank you, Arthur, for all the work you did for both the book and the exhibition. You were the light that still burned after the office hours. Thank you for creating the wonderful wall of the first exhibition space and so much more. Thank you, Sarah, for being the exhibition captain. Thank you, Tim and Jarno, for your amazing engagement, technical thinking, and handymanness. Clearly enjoying being in the atelier of Attento to build elements for the exhibition. Thank you, Attento, for letting us use your atelier and for a few screws and some sanding paper. Thank you, Francisco and Aldo, for the tuning of our plans and visuals. Aga, another Aga, Charlotte, Jason, Felice, Olivier, Constantine, Christophe, and all former collaborators. Thank you for being there, for helping, for being who you are and being part of our team. Thank also to our clients for their patience when we're stubborn, to have trust in our ideas and experience. Thanks to all who love, inspire, and support us. We are here because of you. Voilà.
Thank you both for this presentation. Thank you all for coming tonight. We invite you to discover the publication that Armand and Halewijn have presented to you. It's on sale tonight at the Bozar bookshop. A big thank you to all the NU Architectuuratelier team, to all the Bozar team, with whom it's a pleasure to work every year, as well as my team at Eeckels, of course. I'm delighted to have co-curated this project, again with Lisa and Iwan. Thank you too. And of thanks, go and see the exhibition. For your information, you also have access to the Victor Horta exhibition tonight. I hope you will enjoy your evening.